Bibles to Psalm 73. Psalm 73. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, we want to thank you so much for this beautiful day that you have given us. We pray, God, that you will continue to bless this day, that you'll bless this time, that we might study your word, Lord, that we might grow in our knowledge and our understanding of you and your greatness. Lord, we thank you for your love that has been just lavished into our hearts. God, you've been so good to us, so kind to us, so gracious, so loving. We thank you for that. We pray, God, as we study this evening, that you will be with us, that you will give us wisdom to understand, that, Lord, we might grow, that we might grow in our heart, in our knowledge, and our love for you. We pray all these things in Jesus' holy name. Amen. So the author of Psalm 73, the psalm that we're looking at here this evening, is Asaph. And Asaph is a gifted musician, and he was appointed minister of music during the time of King David. Now, David gave some of his psalms to Asaph to be performed by him and his choir. We're told that in 1 Chronicles 16:7. 1 Chronicles 16:7 that says this: Then on that day, David first appointed that thanksgiving be sung to the Lord by Asaph and his brothers. So Asaph, he was responsible he composed Psalm 50 and then Psalm 73 all the way through Psalm 83. Now the theme of this psalm, the theme of Psalm 73, addresses one of life's most difficult problems. Why is it that the wicked so often prosper while the godly suffer so much? That's really the theme here this evening. Why is it that the wicked so often prosper while the godly suffer so much? Life seems so unfair at times, and the godly seem to get a raw deal in life. Now notice the first verse here, verse 1 of Psalm 73. It says, Truly God is good to Israel, to those who are pure in heart. So God is good, and he blesses those who have a clean heart. I don't think any of us have a problem with that. But Asaph sees a troubling contradiction here all around him as he sees ungodly people prospering. In fact, the ungodly people seem to be doing much better than Asaph himself, even though he is totally and utterly devoted to God. So it's very perplexing to see selfish, immoral people becoming very successful while godly people are experiencing adversity. Asaph pours his heart out to God. He is honest before God as he tells God that he struggles with doubts and confusion when God's word and his experiences don't seem to match up. The same thing has happened to other Bible characters, and my guess is that it may have happened in your life as well. In Job 21, Job, he could not understand why he lived for God and he lost everything, and everything the wicked did seemed to prosper. Jeremiah 12, verses 1 through 3, Jeremiah says this: Righteous are you, O Lord, when I complain to you, yet I would plead my case before you. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why do all who are treacherous thrive? You plant them, and they take root. They grow and produce fruit. You are near in their mouth and far from their heart. But you, O Lord, know me. You see me, and you test my heart towards you. Pull them out like sheep for the slaughter, and set them apart for the day of slaughter. So Joseph's another character in the Bible. Joseph, everywhere he turned, Bad seemed to come at Joseph, no matter how much good Joseph did. Habakkuk 1, verses 1 through 4, he says this, "The oracle that Habakkuk the prophet saw, O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see iniquity? And why do you idly look at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted." So first this evening, what I want you to see this evening is how Asaph has been educated. I want you to see how he's been educated. Look at verse 1 again. Let's read that verse again. "Truly God is good to Israel, to those who are pure in heart." So we see Asaph here is standing on solid ground. The opening verse of this psalm is a great affirmation of Asaph's faith. Now, looking back on the history of Israel, Asaph declares with conviction that God is, and God is good to Israel, to such as are pure in heart. Asaph was no atheist. He was no agnostic. In fact, it was his faith in God and his goodness that created the problem in the first place. So God had made a covenant with Israel that he would bless and he would care for them if they would glorify him by obeying the law. Now here is where the problem came in. Asaph, he was faithful. He did obey God's law. He did have a pure heart. He did have clean hands, but he was not enjoying the goodness of God in his life. His godless neighbors were in better shape materially and physically than he was. His theology and his life experience didn't seem to coincide. So what's wrong here? Secondly, this evening, I want you to see what Asaph has experienced. Let's read verses 2 through 16. Verses 2 through 16. "But as for me, my feet had almost stumbled. My steps had nearly slipped. For I was envious of the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For they have no pangs until death. Their bodies are fat and sleek. They're not in trouble as others are. They're not stricken like the rest of mankind. Therefore pride is their necklace. Violence covers them as a garment. Their eyes swell out through fatness. Their hearts overflow with follies. They scoff and speak with malice. Loftily they threaten oppression. They set their mouths against the heavens, and their tongue struts through the earth. Therefore his people turn back to them and find no fault in them. And they say, how can God know? Is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the wicked, always at ease. They increase in riches. All in vain have I kept my heart clean and washed my hands in innocence. For all the day long I have been stricken and rebuked every morning. If I had said I will speak thus, I would have betrayed the generation of your children. But when I thought how to understand this, it seemed to me a wearisome task." So what Asaph here believed about God and what he was experiencing in his life seemed to contradict each other. Asaph was standing on solid ground in verse 1, but not in verse 2. He's standing in verse 2 on slippery ground. Notice what he says, "My steps had nearly slipped." By his own admission here, he had nearly turned aside from the right way and could have suffered a monumental fall in his spiritual life. Asaph was being honest with himself. He was being honest with God. He could have piously pretended that he was living victoriously in his life, but that would have only made Asaph a hypocrite. On the other hand, he did not want to abandon his faith in God because he knew the truth and he could not turn his back on it. So Asaph was confused about several things. Let's look at some of the things that Asaph was confused about. He was confused about the prosperity of the sinner, the prosperity of the sinner. So verse 3, let's read verse 3 and verse 12 again. For I was envious of the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. Then skip on down to verse 12. Behold, these are the wicked, always at ease. They increase in riches. It bothered Asaph that the wicked prospered while the children of God went without. The wicked are like that rich man that we read about in the New Testament, whose grounds they brought forth so much that he didn't have room to store his goods. Their crops, they're not injured by blight. They're not injured by insects or storms. Their vessels were not wrecked at sea. Their business, it was not ruined by loss or failure. The ungodly and their children, they seem to be well fed, comfortably housed, and successful in this world. They enjoy good health, while the godly seem to suffer sickness. Asaph was confused about the prosperity of the sinner. Why is he so prosperous in his life? Asaph was also confused about the peace of the sinner. Why does he have so much peace? Verse 4, for they have no pangs until death. Their bodies are fat and sleek. So at times it seems that the wicked can live their lives in sin and selfishness, and they're exempt from the trouble, from the suffering, from the trials to which God's people are often subjected. Asaph was even amazed here at how easily the wicked seem to die. He says here, no pangs until death. Asaph was also confused about the pleasure of the sinner, about the pleasure of the sinner. Look at verse 7. Verse 7 here. Their eyes swell out through fatness. Their hearts overflow with follies. Their riches are so abundant and their greediness seems to be gratified in their life. They receive more than they need. Their life is filled with luxury. It's filled with self-indulgence. Like the rich man in Luke chapter 16. They fare sumptuously every day. Asaph was confused at the pleasure of the sinner. He was also confused about the pride of the sinner. Notice the pride of the sinner. Verse 6, and then we'll read verses 8 through 11. It says, therefore pride is their necklace. Violence covers them as a garment. And then verses 8 through 11, they scoff and they speak with malice. Loftily they threaten oppression. They set their mouths against the heavens, and their tongue struts through the earth. Therefore his people turn back to them and find no fault in them. And they say, how can God know? Is there knowledge in the Most High? So they live their lives, their sinful lives, as they desire, with no opposition, it seems, from God. Ecclesiastes 8:11 says this, because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the heart of the children of man is fully set to do evil. We see the pride of the sinner. It seems like everything goes well for him, even though he's not living for the things of God. And he builds up some kind of arrogance. You see the arrogance here. Asaph was also confused about the progress of the sinner, Verses 12 through 16. Behold, these are the wicked, always at ease. They increase in riches. All in vain have I kept my heart clean and washed my hands in innocence. For all the day long I have been stricken and rebuked every morning. If I had said, I will speak thus, I would have betrayed the generation of your children. But when I thought how to understand this, it seemed to me a wearisome task. Asaph felt both bitter and envious as he looked at life through this human perspective instead of a heavenly one. Asaph was also confused about the popularity of the sinner, Verses 10 through 12. Therefore, his people turn back to them and find no fault in them. And they say, how can God know? Is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the wicked, always at ease. They increase in riches. You know, the public have always held the rich and the famous in high esteem. You know, we've seen that, of course, in our day and age. It seems like those that are rich and famous, people want to know all about them. They get magazines, and now that we have all of the internet, you can go on the internet and you can read up on the rich and the famous. It seems like they're always held in high esteem. The world worships them and runs after them. They have prestige and they have all of the money that could buy anything that they want. Asaph, here he looks at the life that he has been living with all of its troubles. And then he looked at how well those that were wealthy, the ungodly, seemed to be making it so well. And he began to think, what's the use? What's the use in me trying to live a godly life? It doesn't match up to those who are ungodly. Yet he was afraid. You might notice there in verse 15 that he was afraid to admit how he felt because he didn't want to lead others down that same path of despair that he was walking on. When Asaph saw these things, he felt like quitting on God. He felt as though he had actually wasted his time in serving the Lord. There's a problem here. The problem with this line of thinking is that life here is viewed from a human perspective. When we're looking at this like this, we're viewing life from a human perspective. When we look at life and its problems from this human perspective, we'll always focus our attention on self. Everything will always come down to this: how does this affect me? What problems will I face now? When will I ever have relief? If you allow yourself, please hear me, if you allow yourself to fall into the trap of looking at life from a human perspective, you, like Asaph, you'll find yourself in a place where you begin to doubt what you know to be true about God. You have to be very, very careful in this area. When we start looking at the world and looking at everything around us from our human eyes and not looking through God's eyes, that's a dangerous place to be. Romans 2:4 says this: or do you presume on the riches of his kindness and forbearance and patience, not knowing that God's kindness is meant to lead you to repentance? So thirdly, this evening, see what Asaph encountered. See what he encountered. Verses 17 through 28. Let's read those together. 17 through 28. Until I went into the sanctuary of God, then I discerned their end. Truly you set them in slippery places. You make them fall to ruin. How they are destroyed in a moment, swept away utterly by terrors, like a dream when one awakes. O Lord, when you rouse yourself, you despise them as phantoms. When my soul was embittered, when I was pricked in heart, I was brutish and ignorant. I was like a beast towards you. Verse 23, nevertheless, I am continually with you. You hold my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And there's nothing on earth that I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For behold, those who are far from you shall perish. You put an end to everyone who is unfaithful to you. But for me, it is good to be near God. I have made the Lord God my refuge, that I may tell of all your works. So beginning in verse 17, the mood of this psalm changes. Asaph moves from the slippery ground of human perspective, and he steps squarely onto the shouting ground of heavenly perspective. It seems here that Asaph made a trip to the temple. He went to the sanctuary, and there he talked with the Lord, and he allowed the Lord to talk to him. And as he did, he was able to get his eyes off himself and the problems that he faced, and he got his eyes on God. Notice what became clear to Asaph when he went to the temple. First of all, the future of the sinner. Asaph sees here the future of the sinner. Look at verses 17 through 20 again. Until I went into the sanctuary of God, then I discerned their end. Truly you set them in slippery places. You make them fall to ruin. How they're destroyed in a moment, swept away utterly by terrors. Like a dream when one awakes, O Lord. When you rouse yourself, you despise them as phantoms. So when Asaph visits the sanctuary, his vision now is sharpened. And he saw the truth about the prosperity of the godless. Asaph saw the future judgment of the wicked. It talks about destruction here. It talks about desolation, being utterly consumed with terrors. The wicked, they may have the best right now. They may live it up and enjoy life to the fullest at this moment. But that dream existence they're living will end the moment their breath leaves their body. And all they will have to look forward to is an eternity in hell, separated from the Lord forever. So before we allow ourselves to become too jealous of the wicked, over the lives of the wicked that they are living, we need to consider the fact that this is the only heaven that they will ever experience. And isn't that terribly depressing? Notice what became clear to Asaph when he went to the temple, when he went to the sanctuary. Secondly, the foolishness of self. The foolishness of self. Look at verses 21 and 22. When my soul was embittered, when I was pricked in heart, I was brutish and ignorant. I was like a beast towards you. So Asaph's worship not only gave him new insight into the destiny of the wicked, of the godless, but it also gave him insight into his own heart, into his own mind. And he realized that when he looked at the prosperity of these wicked people and he became envious of them, that he was brutish, that he was ignorant, that he was without any discernment or understanding. And he compares himself here to a wild animal, devoid of clear thinking. So we see as Asaph goes to the temple, he sees the foolishness of self. When Asaph went to the temple, he also saw the fullness of the Savior. It became clear to him the fullness of the Savior. So verses 23 through 28. 23 through 28. Nevertheless, I am continually with you. You hold my right hand. You guide me with your counsel. And afterward you will receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And there is nothing on earth that I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For behold, those who are far from you shall perish. You put an end to everyone who is unfaithful to you. But for me it is good to be near God. I have made the Lord God my refuge, that I may tell of all your works. So Asaph has already seen the awful destiny of the godless. But what about his own future? He sees what the godless what's going to happen to them. But what about his own future? Because he took time to worship God in the temple, in the sanctuary, he's able to evaluate time in the light of eternity. And I want you to notice some of the things that Asaph discovered. He discovered some things here as he evaluates this, what's going to happen to the godless and what's going to happen to those who love the Lord their God. So notice first what he discovered. He discovered the presence of God in verse 23. Asaph realized that even in the midst of trials and tribulations and heartaches and pains, that he had never been alone, that God was always with him. He discovered, secondly, the protection of God in verse 24. No matter what the storms that come into the life, The believer's life is under the control and the direction of God. And in the end, God would eventually bring Asaph and all of those who believe on the Lord Jesus Christ home to heaven. Asaph discovered the person of God in verses 25 and 26. Asaph comes here to the conclusion that the Lord is all that he needs in his life and in the life to come. I want you to hear this. A heart that desires nothing but the Lord is a heart that will never be disappointed. Did you catch that? A heart that desires nothing but the Lord is a heart that will never be disappointed. And Asaph discovered, fourthly, the perception of God in verses 27 and 28. As Asaph now sees things from God's perspective, he no longer envies the wicked, for he sees that they are doomed. Now he knows it really does pay. It does pay to be a child of God. And he declares here, I have made the Lord God my refuge, that I may tell of all your works. Basically, I have put my trust in the Lord God. You see that here in this wonderful, wonderful psalm, Psalm 73, that Asaph wrote. And we see how he goes from thinking about how the wicked are prospering in this life to realizing the ones that really prosper in the end are those that love the Lord their God with all their heart, with all their soul, with all their mind, with all their strength. Those are the ones that truly prosper. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this time. We thank you for your sweet Spirit, your Holy Spirit moving in our hearts and lives, reminding us through this wonderful psalm that, Lord, we need to look to you day in and day out. Every moment of our lives, we need to be focused on you and how great you are. Not getting our eyes on this world and the things of this world and the materialism and all of those kinds of things. We need to get our eyes off those things and on you. We pray, God, that we will do that. We thank you so much again for this time. We thank you for being with us. You promised that. We love you. We praise you. We lift you high. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.